Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Tristan Landis, and I'm actually here on behalf of the Salutum Buru of Tourism. Maybe you have heard of the country in international news, but it is my job here today to sell you on why Salutum is a country worth visiting. Now, the meritocratic Republic of Salutum, unofficially just Salutum, is an Asian island nation located in the South China Sea, just west of the Philippines. Owing to its history and decade-spanning occupation by famed naturalist Alexander Lansdell, the main island is also sometimes simply referred to as Lansdell by non-natives. Despite being situated only 100 kilometers west of the Philippines archipelago, Salutum is unique for having a population that is comprised almost entirely of Brubafa and is the only country on Earth where humans form a minority. Gokatsu is the capital and a vibrant port city and is considered to be the gateway between Salutum and the rest of the world. Tourism is still in its infancy due to the relatively recent opening of its borders and developing nature of the country. So what does Salutum have going on? Well, while you're here, you'd be remiss not to test out the local cuisine. Specifically, fried fruit, hot pots, and other dishes with clear Western and Filipino influences are all the rage. Because the average islander consumes well over 10 kilograms of food today, expect to eat well. But save some room because Salutum is perhaps best known for its Pengokam wine. This blend of jackfruit, other fruits, and leaves has a rich and distinct flavor, which has earned it global recognition. This is also one of the few places on Earth where homes are grown instead of built. While many islanders now live in settlements built from more fortified materials, you can still find the quote-unquote tree houses, called Segno Kemtum, in the more forested regions of the island. It can take these master horticulturists years to make a single item, which they do by setting and grafting trees and bushes to suit their needs. The end result? Living houses, communal buildings, fences, and even fishing platforms. The oldest surviving of these today were planted well over 2 centuries ago. But we can tell from archaeological records that the practice is at least several thousand years old. But where exactly should you go while visiting? With hundreds of kilometers of coastline, any of the thousands of beaches are a good bet. You should absolutely visit the different districts of Guntuska as well. My personal pick would be to suggest any of the number of the island's scenic or historical sites. We've got such parks as Demon's Chasm National Park, sometimes referred to as simply as Demon's Hole, which is renowned for its ancient rock art and historical role as a place of trial for would-be kings. Other sites include the preserved home of Alexander Lansdell, the pristine cloud forests of Tom Lu Sufa Highlands, and the panoramic views across Tom Lafolafa floodplains. Now, the island itself. The islands themselves have an interesting geologic history, with some parallels to the nearby Philippine island of Palawan. Around the end of the Oligocene, when seafloor spreading began and opened up the basin that would become the South China Sea, much of the island was underwater. That is, except for a landmass in the northwestern area known as Remnant Island. And Remnant Island appears to have acted as a biogeographical raft, picking up and incorporating different organisms that may have washed up there as it drifted to the southeast. While the island is now at an estimated 16% of its original size, it persisted long enough to keep its biodiversity alive. Over time, the microcontinent that would become Lansdell, Palawan, and the Spratly Islands collided with the Philippine Mobile Belt. This led to mild updrafting in Palawan, but a massive uplifting on Lansdell by the Miocene, as multiple thrust events caused mountain building events on Lansdell's northwestern spine and east bordering the Manila Trench. Without these particular events, Lansdell would not be nearly as unique as it is in the biodiversity department. But enough about the island. I'll bet you want to know more about the people living there. As a bit of a reminder for the purpose of sensitivity, apologies. Let's talk about Rubafa. Rubafa, also sometimes called nandre, are a species of perissodactyl or odd-toed ungulate. Rubafa are most notable for being the only other recognized sophan species to share Earth with humanity. Rubafa live in the highest densities in the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, China, and of course Salutum, but can be found almost globally due to historic migrations and, unfortunately, the historic slave trade. Like humans, Rubafa demonstrate a high degree of sociality and commonly live in large groups wherever they are found. Due to extirpation by humans, few traditional Rubafan societies remain. With those that do, are predominantly located in reserves in India's Western Ghats and New Guinea's highlands. Like humans, Rubafa are omnivores. However, they consume more plants in the forms of leaves and especially fruit. They'll ingest varying proportions of small and medium-sized mammals, birds, eggs, and fish depending on the region they live. Many Rubafa work together with humans and are fully integrated into society. Most have simply adopted the local human customs and cultures of the places they call home. Both species help each other, lending their own strengths to achieve feats they could not do alone. Now, the Brabafan people of Lansdell are known officially as the Aputsum. Archaeological findings place their settlement of the island almost 70,000 years ago, around the same time that our own species was beginning to enter Southwest Asia, so they have been there quite a while. Compared to Brubafa elsewhere, they are around 75% the average adult size, with darker faces and more conservative facial markings. Like other Brubafa, they have strong work ethic and strongly value personal and physical prowess. In fact, many festivals and celebrations on the island incorporate physical challenges. During Dopengokam, traditional wrestling matches occur which decide the entire leadership for the next 4 years in some areas. Another holiday, Ule Lafa, is more laid back and focuses on the gathering and feasting, which may be more suitable for those adverse to violence. As stated earlier, Salutum's biodiversity is incredibly unique due to a number of compounding biogeographical factors. Relative isolation for nearly 30 million years, close proximity to the equator, and minimal environmental protrusion have earned Salutum the nickname the Madagascar of the South China Sea. From fanged deer, huge elephants, and rodents of unusual size, these islands offer a treasure trove of discovery for wildlife enthusiasts. A unique mixture of habitats and isolation have led to the evolution of unique animals that inhabit Salutum and nowhere else on Earth. And here are just a few of the more common animals you may see. Fanged deer, or setaku, are the most frequently encountered large herbivores on the island. Despite their bony horns and deer-like appearance, their closest relatives are not traditional deer of the family Cervidae. They are actually most closely related to mouse deer, as evidenced by their fangs. A few species are frequently seen in clearings on the edges of woodland, browsing on low-growing plants and fallen fruit. Other species prefer to live deep in the jungle, along and in rivers, or up in the highlands. Despite how derived they've become, Sentoku do not appear to have been part of the Oligocene fauna that initially founded Lansdale's ecosystem, and seem to have instead arrived sometime during the Miocene. The giant bristleback, or panducum, is the world's largest rodent and is even bigger than a boar. So they're also larger than capybara, and actually quite a few of the extinct South American rodents as well. These huge rodents, very large, just like their smaller relatives, have defensive spines along their head and back that give them their name. This also means that they are the largest spined animals. They are very territorial animals and they're very solitary as well. They prefer to set up strict territories and they mostly do their own thing outside of breeding, outside of when it's time to raise young and breed. And they advertise their territory by screaming in the lovely screams, beautiful screams in the middle of the night. And giant bristlebacks are very special to the Aputsum. They have a special reverence due to their tenacity and natural toughness. Not a lot of things bother them because of just how nasty they are. And there is the Lansdellian wolf, and it is one of the most common and charismatic large predators on the island. It is also known as natives as the Musese. Despite the name, they are not wolves, but part of a group of mammals found only on Salutum, the Prionoscoricids. They do look threatening, but most species pose little threat to humans and Brubafa. They primarily hunt smaller fanged deer and medium to large rodent species. Of course, you must keep in mind they are wild animals, and you should not walk up and pet one. That's asking for trouble. Now, there are much larger prionoscaurids that inhabit Lansdell, such as tree lions, which are not pictured, and you do best to avoid those. You will not encounter them unless you visit a zoo, as they prefer undisturbed habitat and are among the largest arboreal predators in the world. And they are also one of the few things that can actually hurt the elephants on the island. And they seem to have, after the arrival of elephants, they actually seem to have gotten a little larger, which is interesting. Although it's been debated, so there's still more research needed to see if that's actually the case. And of course, one of my favorite animals, the bukema. And if you look into the trees, you may see what appear to be monkeys clambering around. However, these are in fact bukema, distant relatives of Brubafa, and part of another group of animals that live only on Salutum. Bukema are skilled climbers that rarely come to the ground except when the distance between trees is too great to jump. Males have bright markings on their chest that they use in territorial bouts, standing on their hind limbs with their arms outstretched. These markings and their color can be very useful in species identification. The lesser bukema, pictured here, has a set of simple dots that serve to mimic eyes and confound rivals. Cragfowl. While taking a stroll on the island's beaches, you may see birds known as cragfowl or lofowl wandering the beaches. These are large, poorly flighted fowl-like birds that are, in fact, giant pigeons. And they are actually of relation to the extinct dodo. Although it is not a close relation, they're simply both in the same subfamily, and of course they've separated for more than close to 30 million years. So it's same subfamily, but other than that, not closely related. Their actual closest relatives are the bleeding heart doves, from which molecular evidence suggests they separated from close to 31 million years ago. As the name suggests, they nest in dry and rocky areas of the island where they are most safe from predators and a certain fungus. When not breeding, they spend their time in forests foraging for fruit, seeds, insects, and small vertebrates, which would actually make them, of course, they are not carnivores, but they are omnivores, and this would make them one of the very few omnivorous columbids. Aputsum, due to they're usually quite tame animals. They tame down very well. So Aputsum often keep them in captivity and are a key part of island cuisine. Now, there are some reminders if you want to travel to Lansdell. You must receive your Lansdell encephalitis vaccination a minimum of 2 weeks prior to traveling to avoid being barred entry. The bringing or smuggling of unregistered animals is strictly prohibited. The introduction of non-native species is a federal crime and carries hefty punishments. Some eye contact is respectful, but prolonged eye contact in Aputsum society is typically a signal of amorous intent and is thus suggested against unless you have a very close personal relationship with them. Persons with physical disabilities are advised to book their trip through an agent to ensure proper accommodations can be made, as even in urban areas accessibility is limited. While Aputsum latrines are commonplace, human washrooms are a rare occurrence outside of cities. While trekking, be resourceful. If you would like further information and for more detailed information on island culture, history, and wildlife, please visit the Salutum Bureau of Tourism website. But please note the Salutum Bureau of Tourism website is currently undergoing renovations and will be available again late in 2021.